Okay, hi everybody. I'm Laura O'Rourke and I'm the Executive Director of Behavior Bridges. And today I'm talking about the programs that we have funding through the Behavioral Health Tax through Pierce County Human Services. And so a little bit of history about this project. In 2020, Pierce County Council passed an ordinance that authorized 1/10 of 1% of the sales tax of Pierce County residents, mainly outside of Tacoma. To have a tax to fund behavioral health and therapeutic court programs within Pierce County. And so this tax, the RCW, the law that it goes under is that one. And it provides funds for mental health and substance use disorder treatment. And then those dollars are targeted towards services not covered by Medicaid, private insurance, or other local or federal grants. So really the idea of this is we're aware of, and the county is aware of, that we don't have what we need to get access to things that our community needs to prevent behavioral health crisis and mental health crisis. And so this tax was intended to really be an overarching umbrella for addressing that need. And so the county began collecting that tax in July of 2021. And then they required a human services to work with the Pierce County Behavioral Health Advisory Board and developed an improvement plan. And that improvement plan approved funding for behavioral health programs. And there's all sorts of information that you can find on that link about that. But it was approved in December of 2021. So then the following year, in the spring of 2022, this spring, organizations throughout Pierce County were invited to submit proposals to have new bright ideas for if we could try to reduce behavioral and mental health crises in the county, what would we do? And so when I read that, I thought, these are all the things I've been wanting to do and I haven't been able to figure out how to do them. And so I pitched a proposal, and the county thought it was a cool idea too. And so we were able to get funding through preventative and training to provide people with autism or related developmental disabilities, neurodiverse populations, just innovative and effective programs that we haven't had access to. So really the goal of this project was to try to be preventative and support people who aren't getting whatever it is that they need in our natural communities. So they're not finding their people, they're not finding their communities, they're not getting what they need in schools. They're, anybody that's considered at risk for behavioral and mental health crises. We really wanted to be a welcoming place for anybody who just isn't getting what they need in other environments through what we do. And so our goal is to be preventative and address challenging behaviors and support people in the county really who present with complex behavioral and developmental needs to be successful members of their natural community. And the other thing that we notice in particular with neurodiverse populations is access to mental and behavioral health care is also really, really hard to get and hard to find providers who can address those needs. And so that was the idea, was to provide some preventative services so that we don't need to get there, and that if we do get there, that we have some different supports available that our community can work together to help that person get out of mental and behavioral health crises and get back to living their best life. So the partnerships that we developed through Pierce County Human Services, really, these are kind of the buzzwords that we wanted to target. We wanted it to work. We want it to be effective. We want it to be culturally appropriate to neurodiverse populations. We wanted to make sure that there's a lot of engagement and working together with everybody. Our focus is people who have complex needs that just aren't being met in the resources that we have right now. We also wanted to make sure that we aren't just coming up with new ideas where we're like, hey, I think this is going to work, and then we just try it and hope it sticks. We wanted to be evidence-based. We wanted to do stuff that has shown to be helpful. Another goal of this project was to build resource networks so that we have better networks in better communities, much like SSAP or Kids Mental Health Pierce County, or any of those types of networks where, or the ARC, or, any of those places where we're really trying to work together. We also want to focus on decreasing the stigma of having a dual diagnosis. And increase skills to be successful independently, supporting engagement and building community partnerships. Okay, so our target population were people in the community who safe community integration and socialization aren't adequately available through therapeutic, schools, community services, employment services, et cetera. So we serve this little Pierce County area, but we all have barriers with not having the right funding, or school isn't giving us the services that we need, or we can't, or we're not getting enough of them. Maybe there's a social group or a lunch club, but then it's once a week on Fridays, and then it gets canceled all the time, and that's all I get. Or you don't have a specific diagnosis, and so then you don't qualify for ABC services. You don't have the money. You are on a wait list. You've done everything and you're just stuck on wait lists forever. And so all of those things are things that I commonly hear are barriers that end up with that person being in behavioral and mental health crisis at some point, because we didn't, something didn't happen. And most of that time, it was stuff that person had no control over. It was a systems issue. And so the idea with this project was to get rid of all those systems and make it not a big deal. It's just not an issue with this project, which makes me just so happy. So this is the target area that we're serving. So Pierce County Human Services really wanted that, since the tax is being used for people outside of Tacoma proper. Tacoma actually has their own tax for this, just FYI. But really anybody outside of that area within Pierce County is our target area. That doesn't mean that anybody in Tacoma or outside of Pierce County isn't welcome, and we're going to say, no, you can't come. It just means we're prioritizing that, that's really the focus. But if we have room, anybody can come. This is really what my big message is anybody's welcome. Literally anybody and everybody. We want to be a place that people feel good about being around and have a good time and want to be there and want to have fun and want to just be together. And if that's not for you, then that's great. And if that is for you, then you're welcome. And just please come on over. So all of the programs that I'm about to talk to, there's really 3 prongs of programs that we're doing, are fully funded through Pierce County and the behavioral health tax funds. And that's through 2023. So one of my other goals is to make sure that we come up with something sustainable past 2023. I don't want to do any of these things and then just have it end. I want to make sure that we're building those connections and making sure that we can continue to provide these services through, forever. If I had my way.
Laura, can I ask a question? This is
Yeah.
obvious, but I want to make it even clearer. So because the programs are funded, are everything you're talking about, basically there isn't going to be insurance billed? Or
There's no charge.
No charge. Okay.
No charge for everything that I'm about to talk about. Yeah. It's very exciting. Okay, so the first thing we're talking about is social groups. And so there are different themes and skills that we're targeting for different social groups. These groups are meant to be loosely structured hangout style for people to make friends, learn how to be part of a group, have a safe and welcoming place to come. And so when the original proposal came out, a lot of the focus was on kids 8 to 12, where they can't really get into, the preschool programs or those YMCA things, day camps. They're not really established in their more high school, clubs and what can I do after school extracurricular activities. And so there's kind of this group of kids between 8 to 12, right when you're kind of finding yourself and figuring out what do you want to do. But then for some kids, it's just like this, and I experienced this with my own kids. It's like this dead zone of, well, what are we going to do? And if you don't already have your passion and figure out what you're into by the time you're 8, I mean, what are you going to do? And so really there isn't that much available until you start hitting middle school and high school for any of those other things, if you don't naturally fit into those existing school and extracurricular activities. And so the focus, and we see a lot of behavioral health and early mental health crises for that age group. And so the proposal was focused on this 8 to 12 group. But then what we found since we started in July and since we've been piloting is there is a need for all ages to have this same opportunity to access just a welcoming place to be. And so, and we had intended that this would be something that we'd have offered, but we've really seen a huge interest in this particular area where kids and adults and families really just want a place to hang. And so we've expanded a lot of our social groups to be able to address a wide range of ages, all the way through adulthood. We're also going to be doing role play groups and starting a Dungeons and Dragons group in the new year, thanks to Peter. He's coming and giving us more training. I already know what I'm going to be, my characters. I studied. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah? Who?
Yeah. I think I want to be a monk druid.
Dual class. Interesting.
I don't know. Oh, I didn't know. There were 2 slides. So I just picked, I'm like, I like monks and the druid sounds cool. I don't know. You can.
Yeah, we'll get into multi-classing later, but that's
yeah. But yeah.
That's an interesting mix.
Okay. I tend to be interesting. Yeah. I don't go with the grain. But yeah, we're talking about character development this afternoon, I think. So, okay. But and then we also just special interest groups, we're looking at those. So if anybody comes and gives us feedback, we have feedback forms where somebody said, well, we should have a Lego group and we should do this. So if we have enough interest, then the answer is, okay, let's get it together. Let's figure it out. We also toyed with the idea of a social group for caregivers where, maybe quarterly, everybody just comes and there's pizza and just hang out and meet other caregivers. Okay, so participant requirements, whoops. You need to be able to come and have a good time and communicate to us what you need so that we can accommodate that. That's about it. And so, and if it's not working for you and you don't like it or any of those other things, then that's cool. Have a lovely day and let us know how we can try again next time, or it's not for you and that's okay too. Then it was really nice to meet you. And so we have a couple of base rules. I want people to be safe. I want people to have a good time. And I want people to make sure that if they need support in being safe, that somebody that cares about them knows how and can tell us how to make sure it's safe and that we can have fun. That's it. Those are the participant requirements. We tend to gear our stuff towards neurodiverse populations. So that's generally who's going to be there. So another piece is that everybody else has to be welcoming to everybody else. I get kind of snarky when people aren't kind to other people, but that's something we can also practice. So if you're not naturally, that's not something we know how to do, then maybe we'll have a few extra people to support that so that everybody can still practice those things. And so really that's what it's there for, is when really big ratios or lots of loud noises and lots of all that stuff kind of tends to unravel things, then come and hang out and practice routines and practice saying hey and practice having a good time here where there's people that can support you and just be available or not. Yes, Patty.
Another question, and maybe you're going to get to this. Can you give an example of like one of these hangouts or one of these social groups, like walk through like a typical version so we have some ideas of what it looks like?
Yeah, can I do that at the end?
Totally.
Okay. All right. So if you think this would be somebody that then you just register. And if you think you would like to do this, then you register. And you think somebody else that you care about you're their guardian and you want to register them, then you register. It's free. We don't have any wait lists. We have lots of opportunities, and we have our calendar set through June. So, or until June. And then we're working on our summer calendar right now, but we'll be doing some summer longer groups and camps and stuff too. And you can come again. So there isn't like you come once and then that's over. You can come. We have some families and some kids that are coming every time, and it's wonderful. And we're getting to know them, and it's beautiful. And we have some people that come once and they're like, that was really fun. And then they don't come again. But yeah. We're located in South Hill on Meridian, right next to the Dairy Queen. So, and right across from Sunrise Center. So if you know where those are, then that's where we are. And all of our social groups are here at the center. And this is the address. And then this is our schedule. So we still have some December dates. I wanted to make sure that since it's still December, we have a whole bunch of stuff going on over break. We also have a toddlers group that we are piloting just to see if that's something that would be helpful. And so, yeah, so we have some new stuff. And then the schedule, actually the dates already are up on our website. And then registration is at this registration website. And then you just click on the little orange salmon colored button, and then that will get you to a very brief registration page. And it's just basic information so we can call you back, and it gives you an opportunity to let us know if there's anything we should know about allergies, behaviors, anxieties, etc., so that we can know and make sure that it's a good experience for you and whoever you're with. Okay, so to answer Patty's question, to walk you guys through a typical experience, you would go on our website and sign up. And then usually Sarah would call you back or email you back and say, here's the dates, or here's what I have, or did you have a date that you were interested in? And we would get you all signed up. If there's anything in that slot that says there's some things that you should know about me, maybe it's a seizure disorder, maybe it's I have a really hard time with noises, maybe it's whatever, but just anything where you should know about this before I just go, then we might ask a couple of questions so we can hear a little bit more about that. We might also say, if it's really a situation where, you know, more than a couple of people is gonna be something where we won't be as successful, we might see if there's anybody that knows that person well who can come with and also come and hang. Or we might come and do a special group where it's less ratios and we just have a little extra support so that we can make sure that it's successful. And so then once we get all of that hooked up, then the day arrives and you come on in. You can hang up your coat or keep it with you, whatever you want. And then we have activities planned and just available and out depending on the age group. So if it's a toddlers group, we're going to have preschool style toys just available. We'll probably start in one room just because that's usually a little bit better for a small group of toddlers, and they hang out and do free play. For our school aged groups, we have board games and foosball, and Uno Attack was the favorite of the day that I was there. We had a participant who called that morning and said, hey, we haven't been successful in after school programs. We haven't been able to get into any other resources. We're on wait lists for crisis services. There's lots of dynamics at home relating to trauma and other things. We're waiting for a diagnosis or an evaluation for school and medical and home, and gave me a little bit of what happened over the weekend. And I said, well, just come on over. And they did. And she came, and she was really reserved at first and kept her coat with her and said, you know, and just hi. And by the end, she was jumping up and down and saying when she could come back, and they were having a very robust Uno attack game where we changed the rules and everything got switched around, and it was fun. Another day, everybody decided to play grocery store, and then there was a robbery, and the robbery, took all of the groceries, and everybody had to, and then the robber, came back, and everybody was vindicated, and we returned the money by the time and cleaned up. It was amazing. Everybody cleaned up. And then went home, and, so it just depends on the group, and it depends on who the people are in the group and what they want to do. And we're pretty flexible with, if as long as we can be safe and kind and stay here and not run off into Meridian, because that's kind of a scary street. Pretty much everything else is like, are you having fun? And are you safe and kind? Okay, cool. And that's how it's been going. So our teens, we've had a little bit of different mixes. And so we've kind of had different experiences there depending on interest level and the makeup of the teens. So we're still working on something, but we're kind of excited about the D&D groups being one of those answers. But we do have games and things that are geared towards young adults and adults and teens too. And so, yeah, we have art stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was really helpful.
Yeah. Okay. So our second program that we have that we're offering is called Peers. And it's a program out of UCLA that has been researched for quite a while. They're actually starting a preschool based one in this next year. And it's a social skills curriculum class. Basically, it's a 16-week class on skills that you would learn that would be effective in applying to your everyday life that you may or may not have had access to in other environments. And so really this program is for adolescents and young adults and also preschoolers starting in the future when they publish that manual for us. For people who want to be there, who want to be participating in learning and who are able to participate and learn. So people who have minimal functional language might not be as able to absorb the content and the information that we're presenting in this program. And so then we're making sure that they have access to those social groups where it's just not as structured and not as like, here's the video, here's the practice, here's the application. So really this is meant for people who are interested in this content and who are able to do that for 16 weeks. All the programs are 90 minutes for a 16-week period, and then participants they can attend with a parent or caregiver or by themselves. And then the idea is we're going to work on it in that 90 minutes, and then there'd be opportunities to practice and maintain that over time throughout the 16 weeks. Yeah, Patty.
Sorry, I'm just going to keep asking questions. If others have questions, feel free.
Yeah.
With the parent, do you do a separate group, or are they in the same group with the team? Okay.
Same group. And really, it's not for parents. It's not for caregivers. It's meant that if that person feels more comfortable and confident with a parent or a caregiver or a friend or whoever with them, then that they're more than welcome. Sometimes when everybody's learning this stuff together, it's easier to apply after you leave. But it's not a requirement, and it's not for caregivers.
It's not parent. Yeah, it's not.
It is not parent or caregiver focused whatsoever.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Peers is one of the few evidence-based programs that's out there, and this is just off of their website. It's pretty tried and true. They've done a lot of research and well-established evidence for people who have lots of different neurodiverse skills. And so it's just an opportunity to practice that. This is what the program is. So this is basically the 16-week program, just learning how to trade information, finding where do you find friends, how to do electronic communication, appropriate uses of humor, entering group conversations and exiting conversations, having get-togethers. The adult program gets into dating, because we do have some people who have a hard time with knowing those boundaries and how to make sure that we stay on one side of the boundaries. Handling disagreements, handling bullying, direct and indirect, and then just, what do you do with all of this information? So the idea is, this is just information to have and to take, and participation is optional. So you can just hang out and sit there in the back and do nothing, and or you can be really active. It's very much person specific and at whatever that person wants to take that information for. So we don't make anybody do anything that they don't want to do. We don't make anybody participate that doesn't want to. The only criteria is from peers is that that person can, is able to take this information and able to communicate back if they'd like to, but it's not required. So the referral process is anybody who thinks this would be good for them can register. We had a parent came to our first cohort, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, I'm learning all this stuff too." They're like, "I didn't know that you could do that you could just start a conversation that way." I'm like, "I know." And I told my kids, I'm like, "You guys should do this. This is good. This is good stuff." So really it's just people who are interested in being part of learning that kind of stuff. And but there is a required participation, like you have to come. There's a graduation. We just had our first cohort graduate Tuesday, or maybe it was Wednesday, but they voted on a movie and an ice cream party. So we had a movie and an ice cream party for graduation, and everybody got a graduation certificate. And yeah, it was fun. And then caregivers are available to be there and learn and assist if that person is interested in having their caregiver or friend be part of that. And if not, that's okay too. It's also free. And this is a one and done program, but we also have opportunities for adolescents and adult cohorts, and online and in person for next year. Patty.
Are you only going to do in person? Is there any chance you're going to do a virtual peers?
Yeah, we have it ready to go. Yep, we have online cohorts dates in the new year. Here you go. So for our 13 to 17, we have an in-person, but we also have an online group. And then our adults, we haven't had that many adults sign up so far. So these dates are fairly loose until we get enough people that are interested. But that's something that we're working on too. Most of the adults that we've had show interest have been more appropriate for our social groups. So we're just waiting for people that are interested. And there's your answer, Patty. We have virtual dates. Yay. And then otherwise, if it's at the center in person, then it's at the center. We are also working with different groups and people to provide those groups outside of Behavior Bridges. So we're going to be doing some stuff in Lakewood. So we're partnering with different school districts trying to get some dates together. So there's who, if that's something people want, we're happy to figure out how we could work on that for peers. Okay. Any questions about peers? Okay. Registration's the same. It's just the purple button. Okay. So then our third program that we're offering is called Safety Care for Families. And this is meant for caregivers and family members. And really it's a training for caregivers and family members on supporting challenging behaviors. The focus for this training is only on preventative and safe and humane supportive evidence-based interventions for preventing and responding to challenging behaviors. We're not going to go over any hands-on, any of that kind of stuff. We don't do that, and we don't teach that, and we're not gonna teach the public that. So I'm a big proponent of if you do the preventative interventions well, all together, all the time, every time with everybody, and we focus on that, we can pretty much do a pretty darn good job of reducing those challenging behaviors most of the time. So yeah, and so this is a program that's through a company called QBS, Quality Behavior Solutions, and their website's down here, but they do offer training and programming that school districts are using, agencies use, but what's cool about Safety Care is most of those other programs, they do offer preventative strategies, but there's kind of a little bit more focus on what to do when the crisis happens. And most of those programs are only offered to providers, and families don't have access to that. So then, you know, school district personnel have this training, hospital staff have this training, but foster care systems don't. Family members don't, siblings, and people who are there every day don't have access to those trainings, and then the people who are trainers don't have permission to do that training for caregivers and for people who are there every day. And so what happens after you visit the ER? What happens so that you don't ever get to that point? And so that's kind of the stuff that I really like about this particular program. Is it's a program that's geared for caregivers, that is in line with some other programs that those programs might offer if we get into crisis interventions. Okay, so some facts at a glance. Depending on the size of the group, because the training is really about competency and learning how to do it well preventatively, rather than just go through the motions, do the training, and then you get the certificate and you're done. This is really meant to make sure that caregivers have the opportunity to learn the skills and to learn, those things. So depending on the group size, it's 3 to 5 hours. We've shifted our groups for Safety Care a lot, and we're really trying to focus on just a super small group so that everybody can get through both sessions in 3 hours. So if we have a small group, we can get done with both 1 and 2 in 3 hours. A larger group, it's going to be about 5 hours total. Our staff are Safety Care trained, and then there's a certificate of completion at the end. This is what caregivers would learn. So the part 1 is really about collaboration and different responsibilities that people have to make sure that we're always focusing on dignity and integrity and safety, understanding why challenging behavior happens and where it comes from, making sure that we're creating a supportive environment. So it gets into some of those issues of, is the environment really overwhelming and loud? That could be a thing that we could probably prevent a lot of stress and a lot of possibilities that we could end in crisis just by having access to some places that are quiet or what have you. So it really gets into that type of environmental stuff. It gets into some safe personal safety issues of like how to just have your body so that you don't accidentally get smacked in the nose. And so just some personal safety, but also not towards the other person, about protecting yourself from injury. Safety habits, how caregiver behavior can influence that person's behavior as well. Getting into power struggles, for example. And then using reinforcement and different types of reinforcement. Then the second part gets into what those antecedents are that contribute to challenging behaviors, how to stand and how to have your body, when you're moving, and just so that you don't end up inadvertently in a position that is going to be vulnerable. De-escalation and how important that is, because after you have a moment, you need to make sure that everybody chills out and calms down and gets back to a positive relationship again. And then if needed, developing a family safety plan. So for a referral process, any parent or caregiver is welcome. We've heard a lot of feedback that the foster care families have been really interested in this. There's not a whole lot of resources for foster families to be able to have this kind of information. So that's an area. But we piloted this with all of our Behavior Bridges families, like all of this, before we ever applied for the grant and tried all this out. But we've had parents of littles come and say, you know, oh, I'm going to use that because when they don't like getting in their car seatbelt, just making sure that I can get them buckled in quickly and safely. But then it's also useful for people who are older and bigger and more routinely ending up in crisis situations. It's the same information, it's the same preventative strategies, and you're just applying them differently. So it really is for any parent or caregiver who experiences challenging behaviors of any sort, and the training is really meant to be able to be applied to your individual situation. So also free. We're also offering in-person, but also virtual trainings in the new year. It's a one and done class. So once you complete session 1 and session 2, you don't do it again. And we have openings for this as well. That's what I just said. And so then the safety care is the orange button there, and the registration's on the same page. One of the things to know is that you don't need to sign up for like all of them separately. If you give us your information one time, then you can just let us know that you want to sign up for 1, 2, 3, whatever is your interest. And then this is just the explicit directions for how to get to it and get to the information on our website. Registration is really simple. So you just have to click on the button that you're most interested in, or any of them. And then we'll get you hooked up with whatever it is that you're wanting to participate in. Let's see. Sarah's email is the info@behaviorbridges.com, and then everything else that we have is up on the website. There's more information. Our new events has our new calendar, and I can put that in the chat when I stop sharing. But that's all of the stuff that I wanted to share with you guys. Do you guys have any questions for me?
I know you said it was funded out of the taxes, but for the ones that are virtual, is there any limitation to only people living in that area attending those?
No, I mean, the county wants to make sure that we're prioritizing the people whose tax dollars are paying for the program.
Definitely.
But right now we have openings that if you call and you want to come and you're outside of that area, we're not going to say no. So the idea with all of us is we know that there's gaps in resources for all of these areas, and we know that these gaps are directly contributing to people experiencing mental and behavioral health crises that don't always need to get to that level. And so really this is meant to be an opportunity to try to prevent some of that. And so if that would be beneficial and you don't meet that criteria for the county, as long as we're prioritizing the people whose tax dollars are paying for it, and if not enough of them signed up, then I'm not going to say no, because we have 5 extra slots. So
we see so many families that QBS program would be beneficial for.
And if that did become a problem, all of the programs that we have are standalone outside of this project. We already had them. We just didn't have the means to be able to put it out there like we are this year and next year. And so we have these programs available. So we can figure it out. The answer is always going to be yes. Until I'm forced to say no, the answer is yes.